we have Eric Leightman.
Thanks again, Dr. Reed, for even thinking of this. It's
Real
quite-
estate agent by profession, but founder of Gleanings of the Harvest, an unusual Christian ministry, which he's been describing. And here is Mr. Bernice Constantin, if I can get him in the picture, who is also heavily involved with Gleanings of the Harvest and is related to Eric in that he's Eric's father-in-law. So there's the two of them. They've both been out there working with the children. And right, so Mr. Bernice, you've been hearing Eric saying a good deal about his ministry in the vicinity of Nairobi, Kenya, and well, you've been out there, you've been active in it. What have you got to say about it?
Well, he's covered the history of it and the heart of it really well. And where we are now is that we're planning, in fact, we're leaving tomorrow morning to go back to Nairobi and Malawi to touch base with the people that we have sponsored and that are kind of ending their education and going into the career phase of their lives. And we're going to be meeting with other schools that we've already contacted and arranged meetings when we get there to start looking at other children that have the potential and the possibilities that we're looking at in children in that setting, and be setting up so that we can sponsor them in the same way that we have done with the ones that are finishing up. And that was just being in touch with it, being more than just a handout, but loving them, showing them that we care, that we want them to succeed, showing them that they can, encouraging them, and then giving them the ability to take those steps to make it happen. And then we're there with them pretty much every step of the way, kind of helping them out spiritually and in their education. And something else that is good is we also meet their families, their mother, father, siblings, and whatever. So we become involved with them as well, become acquainted with them as well. So it becomes more of a family thing rather than just us and them. It becomes us. And with the internet access we have and the electronic media, whatever that we have now, we're able to contact them weekly. Say, how are you doing? We love you. What are your needs? Are you serving God? Is there anything we can pray together on? And things like this. So it's a
And
good
are they
relationship.
serving God after the few
Yeah,
years?
oh,
They're basically
absolutely.
going ahead with the
Absolutely,
Lord.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're more independently now in their faith, moving forward.
Yeah.
So we're just there to continue to encourage them, but they've taken the reins of this horse and they're moving it forward themselves now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so it's
good.
It's what we want to see.
Hmm. And you usually do see it.
Well, we're seeing it now.
Yeah.
And that's good.
You mentioned the odd exception where one or two students are disappointed.
Well, you're going to have that, and we accept that, and we just pray that at some point they will look back and say, God is real, and He was there for me at that point, and then let God turn their life around, and they still can make something of themselves just because they didn't accept, or misused whatever we were offering them.
Yeah, I mean, I should mention that the background to this is that that most of them did very well with the
This
education
is
opportunities.
just one or two.
But every now and then, one or two didn't do very well,
Right,
didn't
right.
do as well as they could have done
Right.
and should have done
Right.
with the opportunities they were given.
Right, exactly.
And,
But it's very few,
mm.
and we love them anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. Not everybody makes the best use of their opportunities, that's certainly true. Even if they love the Lord. So, what more?
Well, we are prepared and looking forward to what God has for us in the next 3 weeks, because we'll be in Nairobi for 3 weeks, working with the next group that God is going to show us
Right.
and loan us
Right.
to build into His kingdom.
Yeah. We're going to talk now about what Eric has been doing in Malawi, which, as you may recall, is much more the agricultural, agrarian society, not a great big metropolis like Nairobi. But he's been out there, and the Lord's led him to do some things that are subtly different from what he got up to in Nairobi. So let's hand over to Eric Leightman and ask him for a description of what's been going on in Malawi. Eric.
So just to give you, I guess, sort of a recap of how we got started over there and where we are now. I went over there in 2004, and I connected with 3 people over there that were in a school that was sort of like a trade school. But one of them, his biggest passion was to be a pastor. He's like, if I just get the chance, I just want to be a pastor. I would do anything, if I could get that opportunity. So then, the year after, I connected with him, and we started to sponsor him at the School of Theology there in Malawi. And so he went there, and then he started to pastor his own church. And we've just been really closely connected with this pastor. His name's Pastor Linson. And without him, I don't think we'd be doing anything over there, to be honest, because he's just been so vital. He's had such an amazing heart, such a pure heart for everything. He's gone over and beyond doing stuff. He, as a pastor over there, I can only imagine you really don't make that much, but he's given of his time out, weeks and weeks of his time just to help out the people over there at his church. So because of him, he almost just very organically said, hey Eric, there's a couple other pastors that really would like to become pastors there. Could you sponsor them also? So that number climbed to 2 or 3 a couple of years ago. And basically we just sponsor the pastors at the school. After they graduate, they're fully self-sufficient. They pastor their own churches, and they're set to go. So a couple of years ago, we raised that to about 10. Mr. Bernice and I went 2 years ago to Malawi. And really since then, he's been the biggest catalyst in Malawi by far. Just
Mr. Bernice this is.
Yes,
yeah,
just
right.
this constant echo in my head and my heart saying, what are we doing not sponsoring more of these guys, because they really have the heart to do that. And so I think he really was a catalyst in there, and really just pushing us to sponsor more pastors and really getting that in the forefront of our mission and vision. And so we doubled the number of pastors, and then I think we're up to like 26 pastors right now that we're sponsoring, 27 pastors.
Right. Let me just put this in perspective, because sponsoring pastors in theological college is something that goes on in the West. But how much does it cost? This is a statistic that was fascinating to me when I first heard it. How much does it cost to sponsor a pastor to get trained in Malawi?
Per year, it's approximately $1,000 to get the college tuition, their room, and their board all combined. And if you ask me how they do that, I don't know, but that is that's sort of the going rate for a pastor right now at the Malawi School of Theology.
And they train for, 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, if they don't speak English, they have a 2-year track. If they don't read or write, they feel very strongly like, hey, if you are called to be a minister and you don't have all of these tools to read or write, that would take a long number of years to be proficient at. They have a track for them, then they have a track for people who can. They have a 3-year track, and then they have like a 4-year track. And a 4-year track would be the equivalent, actually use the same curriculum as the Assemblies of God here in America does when they're training their pastors here. It's through Global University. Like the track, I think, is very similar to that.
So it's 3 to 4 years, in fact, and a little more if they don't know as much English as they might.
Well, if they don't know as much English, it's just like a 2-year diploma course that they can still be trained in the essentials of what it would be to be pastor, and then after that,
they go out.
They go out.
Right. And what are the fruits of them going out, the ones you've seen go out? Well, of course, you had Pastor Linson, and he now has his church. And
his churches. Mr. Bernice and I went over there. I've been over there 2 or 3 times, and It's just the craziest, amazing thing to see God's kingdom come in the ways that it does over there. I'll let Mr. Bernice talk to you more about that because he's
Right. Yes. He's very enthusiastic about it. Yes.
and he's good at describing it. He's actually a lot better describing that than I am. So
I think you're coming over pretty loud and clear. But yes, let's hear what Bernice has to say about what's been going on in Malawi. Okay, so Mr. Bernice, you are by repute the catalyst for what's been going on in Malawi. You obviously have a heart for it. Tell us what happens when these young men with a heart to become pastors are given the opportunity by Gleanings of the Harvest.
Well, even more than that, the thing when I was there and I went to some of the churches that were established, that were started by these young pastors that were educated at the School of Theology, and within just a year or so, how these churches were thriving, it just reminded me of the New Testament. How there was this catalyst, this group, and they were sent out to these villages and towns. Well, there was towns there, but in Malawi it's villages. And they would go to these villages and begin preaching the gospel. And from that, churches were established. And that is essentially, we went to and visited 5 or so of the pastors that we had sponsored and that had been out for a year or two and established their churches. And it was so impressive that it was just hard to believe because it was so New Testament. And everyone that I can recall that we questioned, I would ask them, I'd say, when you started the church, how many people were coming? And it was inevitably 50 or under 30, whatever. And I said, okay, you've been here how many years? And it was 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, but no more than 2 or 3 years. And then I said, well, what is the size of your congregation now? And it was like 150, 170. I said, in 2 or 3, in a year, 2 years, 3 years? I said, yes, the people are receptive. They get excited. They get it. And the church is just growing. I got so excited about that. I said, what an opportunity. So little on our part to produce so much for the Lord, to build His church there. And it just not only excited me, but it just gave me a vision. I said, and now to see that we have 27 churches being established in a country that is so poor and so needy. And it's just so rewarding to me and exciting that I love all that we're doing, but that's where God has kind of set my heart. And that's what I'm excited that we're going to be, we're planning to go there again. But meanwhile, we're still sending people to be trained to go out, preach the gospel, and establish churches. And that's what we're all about.